Hey, what's going on, everyone? So, welcome back to the show. Today, I'm actually doing a live here from Vegas. I'm still visiting my parents over here, but I'll be heading back to Texas pretty soon. But I have a friend that I actually haven't seen in person in probably like well over 6 years at this point. So we usually keep in touch online and stuff of that sort. But I'm happy to have Jeremy Jackson as a guest today. And before I have him take over, I just want to say, it's good to see you, and it's thanks for staying in touch. And when we did hang out for a little bit in person, I always appreciate your kindness and your welcoming nature and stuff of that sort. So it didn't go not unnoticed.
Thanks, man. I feel the same, bro. And thanks for having me on the show. Thanks for continuing to kind of carry this message of information and knowledge and support and community. And it's beautiful, talking about going back 6 years ago and, or even more. I mean, we haven't seen each other for maybe 6 years, but there was a couple of years we were seeing each other frequently. So, 8 years ago, when the gym is full of, neon pink shakes and, confetti cookie protein bars. And it's like, there's this dude over there and he's got a mason jar and, he's either drinking pee or bone broth. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
or
what one.
both, usually mixed.
Yeah, good mix. And that's kind of how we just first hit it off. We talking about bone broth and carnivore diet and talking about, GMOs and being poisoned essentially and how to hack that and get back to basics as far as food goes. And so we hit it off in that way. And then, after you checked out and decided to go free, which was beautiful to see you kind of quantum leap and just take a risk and get out of what might have been comfortable. You were doing well out here, but to go get yourself some property and some land or do your podcast and that was really beautiful to see. And then all these lives you're changing online has been rad, dude. Your transformations are epic, and I'm proud to be friends with you. And birds of a feather got to flock together. So thank you.
Yeah, you actually reminded me that I used to drink out of mason jars, and it reminded me that I kept breaking them. So now I drink out of stainless steel for the most
There you
part. Just
go.
I got it, can't keep making the same mistakes all the time. But yeah, you did remind me that
Yeah.
I used to do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I got a bunch and I just keep saving them from like my honey jars. And so they break, but I seem to replenish.
yeah, I just like having like health professionals on the show that are healthy themselves, which ironically is actually very rare. So it's not the easiest to find healthy health professionals to be a guest on this show. But luckily, I had like Paul Check on and Sean Baker and all those guys. Uh,
Nice.
and yeah, just happy to have you on the show. So we could even get started with, how because you're very consistent yourself, and consistency is king. And what have you learned over the many decades of how to actually stay, the basics of staying healthy and what actually works and what doesn't work, and how to kind of get rid of all the noise and just do what works over the years?
Right. That's a great question, man. And obviously, I don't have everything figured out. I don't have all the answers. I think we're all growing and evolving and learning, or we should at least remain teachable and know that there's no ceiling on this thing. I think until either of us start walking on water and moving mountains, then we'll know we've reached the peak. So, a lot of people talk about peak performance or uh, peak function, but I think all we're really here to do is make sure we're optimally performing. Optimal function, optimal discipline. And through what you mentioned earlier, it was just like consistency that we're this optimizing is like a growing relationship, a growing process. And then we look back and go, holy crap, I've come so far. So I think looking for peak is kind of it's a trap door. It's kind of a self-defeating prophecy that a lot of people will want to be peak and the peak never comes, or you get to the peak, you got the 12 pack or what have you, and you're like, dude, it's like I thought I'd be happier with this. Like,
Hmm.
what's up? And now that I do have the 12 pack that I always wanted, it's like everybody's arms are bigger than mine. And like, oh, okay, now I need big arm, whatever, or running faster or hitting harder. It doesn't really matter. It's the peak, which is a snag point, which was a snag point for me for years, which kind of brings me back into answering your question is what was it for me? And I really believe in this what I call a tribrid. And werewolves are pretty scary, and vampires are pretty scary, and witches are pretty scary. But when you bring them all together, you got a powerful entity. You got to be a little bit of a sorcerer, and you got to be a little bit of a little bit of an animal, and you got to be a little bit of a saint. So I say mind of a philosopher, spirit of a sage, and a body of a warrior. And pretty smart guy. I think we all can be. The information's out there, the knowledge is out there. Anybody can follow a recipe or a formula. But for me personally, when I straightened out spiritually, I straightened out mentally and physically as well. Meaning when I really tapped deeper into breath work, meditation, prayer, nature, service to other human beings, when I put those things first, magically I just got more dialed in physically than I had ever got when I was trying so hard. And or the you know the cheat meals, the inability to not binge after fasting, or the very strict dieting that I'd always wanted to do and be so perfect with everything. That was actually a chore, and it felt like a task and something that I had to do, or something that I believed if I accomplished would catapult me into a new level of existence, or allow me to be proud, or help me to fit in better in the social arenas or groups of people, and now I'll be accepted. Although a lot of these ideas are subconscious, a lot of these ideas,
Hmm.
they don't present themselves on the surface like that. But through spiritual development, through feeding the soul, all of a sudden, like, I just found myself able to suit up and show up and maintain that consistency, because I disciplined myself inside. And that the goals that I had always pined after seemed to take care of themselves. Once I disciplined the inside, it's like the outside world started changing, or my fuel source, my drive, my origin source. What I was plugged into essentially on the inside was different. So where I was going and what I was able to accomplish on a consistent basis through like a sense of joy, and or feeling blessed in the ability to do this stuff and have my workouts got more fun. The way I ate got more of a service to this temple, and it was just a became like a place of appreciation rather than a task and a laborsome thing.
Hmm.
That's really what made the change for me. Of course, you got to back that up with information and knowledge and research, and you got to be reading labels. You got to have a chosen ideal about maybe what type of eating is going to be right for you, or what type of training burns you out versus what type of training you can sustain. And do you want to get bigger, do you want to get smaller? Of course, there's data, and there's measurements, and there's equations that go into all that. So you got to be innocent as a dove and sharp as a serpent, as the Bible says. You got to be in this world, but not of this world. But that was like the biggest thing for me. It changed everything.
Well, how's for anyone that's interested in going on kind of like a similar spiritual, I almost feel, honestly, Jeremy, I almost feel bad for people trying to start their fitness journeys these days, because I feel social media has confused people so much more than it's helped. So how has can you kind of go over the history and progression of your journey, when you maybe even started with, when you first became consciously aware that it's something that even needs to be attended to, and the steps
Hmm.
and procedures you went to, and maybe a lot of the mistakes you made along the way to come to your journey now?
Yeah, well, I would say that my personal experience is very hard won. My personal experience was, uh, you know, although today I see as fortunate, for years was unfortunate. How many times do you touch the hot stove before you decide to stop touching the hot stove? How many times do you just throw everything against the wall to see what sticks, or toxify your lose your hair, go doing a bunch of crazy steroids, or toxify your liver, lose your temper, quit jobs, cheat on girlfriends because you're all freaking whacked out on a bunch of stuff to get fit. I did stuff like that a lot. And so through constant reminders that, hey, this doesn't work, and or the juice isn't worth the squeeze, it hurts more than it helps. Um, Throwing the baby out with the bathwater, building it up, tearing it down, building it up, tearing it down, losing it all. I realized that, there's a piece of the puzzle missing, and it's great to be smart, like we talked about. You want to be smart, you want to be educated, you want to have an understanding of what's going on. And it's great to be in good shape. Um, the body is like really undisciplined. It's going to lie to you, and it can do so much more than you think it can. And it wants to be conditioned. It's built for work and toil and wrestling and resistance. That's what it's built for. And it's kind of like a dog. When you train a dog, it really enjoys obeying and doing tricks and having a master. And an undisciplined dog chews up your shoes and pisses wherever it wants. And so, the body is like that. But obviously, those two legs I was trying to stand on weren't providing the stability that I needed. So I knew I needed another leg to the foundation. I knew I needed a third pillar so I could tripod and have some balance. Um, so, breath work about 10 years ago, I would say was really one of the biggest kind of kaboom turning points. Was having a profound spiritual awareness breakthrough through holotropic breathing, releasing endogenous DMT, um, as well as the journey with breath work. Because I stayed consistent with it, I processed a lot of trauma that I didn't even know I had, like pain, grief, remorse, guilt, shame, the blockages in my heart chakra, my ability to accept love, and all of these things made themselves known to me. It wasn't your breath work is like this thing that's very intimate, personal, and profound, that when continually practiced, it reveals what we would call, what we say is, it reveals self to self. Like
Hmm.
self doesn't really recognize self, because self is all caught up in the world, and in making these rationalizations and justifications of, no, that's, blah, 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 blah. But as you reveal self to self, ego, pride, fear, resentment, shame, guilt, um, lower self, really, um, you start to be able to get free from it. It's like the enemy, or the foe, the blockage, the resistance makes itself known to you, and it's through intentional breathing, holotropic in nature, creating that gas exchange that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about so perfectly, with the hydrogen gas and alkalining the cell, and getting hyperoxygenated, and increasing the pump of the cerebral spinal fluid to the brain, and having this potential awakening experiences. It's all really powerful stuff. So I think as I kind of emptied the vessel a little bit, it made room for new.
Hmm.
I can't really accept a gift from you if my hands are just super full. And the thing you're trying to give me might be awesome, but if I'm just too busy carrying around 9 million other things from last week or last month or last year, it's kind of
Hmm.
hard for me to take something new, because my hands are full. We don't realize that our nervous system is kind of like this. It's just full of shit.
Yes.
And how can I accept something new, even if it's true or real or better? I can't really allow it. So that would be the number one thing that catapulted this new type of resonance of existence, or awareness, as you put it. Um, Number two is a practice that I picked up about 4 years ago. It's written by an author named Emmett Fox. Emmett Fox was a writer from the 1940s. He's part of something called the New Thought movement. He was in with the New Thought leaders, Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote the Game of Life and How to Play It, Neville Goddard, who's wildly popular if you've ever listened to Neville Goddard. I believe that Impact Theory. What's his name? Um, the host of Impact Theory.
I know his face, but I forget his
Yeah.
name too. I know who you're talking about
You
though.
know who I'm talking
I'll
about?
probably like 2 hours from now, I'll probably remember his name,
Bing.
you know?
Yeah. I believe he's part of the New Thought movement. Um, anyway, Emmett Fox has a few books on, power of constructive thinking. This practice called the Golden Key that I picked up 4 years ago, and the Golden Key is really this process of intentionally, through consistency and repetition, training the mind to focus on things that are true, lovely, just, gratitude, peace, love, acceptance, God, whatever you want to call these things, and forgetting about anything that is problematic. Literally pushing out any thoughts that bring you. You don't fight anxiety by thinking about anxiety. You don't fight darkness with more darkness. You don't fight hate with more hate, right? Light casts out hate, or light casts out darkness. Love casts out hate. Peace, love, and acceptance, serenity. That's what casts out anxiety, right? So what's happened in our world is, myself included, you get this, I'm afraid of this, and you know what? I wish I wasn't afraid of that, and I know I shouldn't be afraid of that. And how do I get unafraid of that? And well, hopefully I won't be afraid of that. Well, I just won't go around those people, so then I won't be afraid because it's those people's faults I'm afraid. Or all so we're actually trying to fix our problems by thinking about our problems.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever we think about expands. Whatever you feed expands. Whatever you focus on grows. So he has this wild suggestion that, if the Bible says man is created in the image of the Creator and has dominion over all things, is it possible that this dominion we have, as outlined as the fowl of the air, which represent our thoughts, the beasts of the land, which represent our desires, and the fish of the deep, which represent the unseen spiritual abundant sustenance that's hidden to the naked eye? Because when you look at the surface of an ocean, you don't see treasures and sunken ships and starfish and coral reefs, and you see the surface of the ocean. But down there, there's craziness going on. It's wild. You could eat forever. You could, you could find treasure. It's infinite and abundant below the ocean's surface. But of course, in our humanness, we can only see the surface. But because we can only see the surface, we never assume that there's nothing down there. So in
Mm-hmm.
the physical world, just because we can't see the spiritual world, should we assume that there's nothing on it, or should we assume that it's abundant life, infinite and beyond? Um, so Emmett Fox, he basically just has this thing, and it says, don't think about the problem. Forget about the problem. Now, erase the problem with thoughts of God, with thoughts of peace, with thoughts of how I can be helpful to somebody else, with thoughts of gratitude, with thoughts of abundance, with a mantra. So I started living, after doing breath work for a long time, I started living and dying by these mantras. And if you think about it, every memorable brand has a catchphrase, don't they?
Yes.
I mean, if I say just do it, what do you think of?
Not Nike.
So we've been branded, and brands are good at branding. And is it possible that I could brand myself? That when I think of me, I think of this. Instead of when I think of me, I think about washed up child star. When I think of me, I think about former drug addict. When I think about me, I think about not good enough. When I think about me, I think about the people that don't like me. I think about the people that talk bad about me on the internet. This is very common in modern society. We think about a
Mm-hmm.
problem. So, I live and die by these mantras that say, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. It's one I use on a daily basis. What's meant for me will be. Nothing's falling apart, everything's falling together. Everything that I have is all that I need, and everything I need, I already have. I am one with all, and all is one in me. I am one ONE with all, and all is one WON in me. Um, and things of this nature. The more I let go, the more I have. I mean, I have a whole laundry list. One right up here on the wall that I've been practicing every day when I brush my teeth with my left hand. Through kindness and equanimity in all situations and circumstances, I stay in my power with love. Through kindness and equanimity in all situations and circumstances, I stay in my power with love. I don't know about you, but I'm personally sick of giving up my power. And you know, Nothing actually has power that I don't give power to. I have the power to give anything power. Everything is nothing until I decide it's something, right? Money is not, it doesn't even have value, but we put power to it because it's energy. So,
Hmm.
by branding myself in this rebranding, really, of the mind, if you're familiar with search engine optimization, it's not dissimilar. I want, when my search engine on my brain pops something in, I want the first few pages to be like child of God, infinitely powerful, kind and in equanimity, in all situations and circumstances, right where he's supposed to be. Nothing's falling apart, everything's falling together. That's how I want my search engine to go there first. I should have to dig through a lot of beautiful shit before I get to any negative shit you know so I started
I think for
SEO.
most people, it's like the positive stuff is on page 28, you know?
That's what I'm saying, and it was for me too. It really was for me too. you know um I don't know if like 8 years ago I was probably still wearing pretty cool Nikes to the gym. Do you remember me always kind of having a fresh fancy pair of shoes on?
Hmm.
Well, that was like my claim to fame. I always had to have a cool pair of kicks, and
Mm.
that was like, I was prideful in that. I mean, I enjoyed it. Oh, you got the Supreme one. Oh, and I started saying everything that I have is all that I need. Everything I need, I already had. I stopped buying Nikes. Turns out I hate Nikes. They feel like shit on my foot. I don't wear anything but barefoot shoes anymore. And
Hmm.
I always would have preferred that. I just had no idea because I
Hmm.
thought I needed cool shoes to be a standout cool trainer.
Mm.
I thought I needed people to know that my shoes are $600, so I'm doing good. I must be a good trainer if I'm wearing $600 shoes. All pride and ego, right?
Hmm.
Not only is it pride and ego, but it's impairing my performance and it's crippling my feet. And I'm willing to suffer this like impediment just to project. Now, I didn't understand these things. I didn't know that's what was going on. I just thought I liked cool shoes. It was a total lie. But until I revealed self to self and I blotted out that old, now I got one pair of cheap little field ground, like slip on mesh shoes. And I was like, holy smoke, what have I been doing to myself all these years? Wear nothing, but I've saved a lot of money in shoes. They're
Hmm.
a third of the price. And, my low back, my toes are spreading. I got a way better foundation. My knee hurts less. So, that's like a little analogy of
Hmm.
how we get so far off from the chosen goal unconsciously. We're not even aware that we're fucking ourselves. You know what I mean? So I've had all kinds of other beautiful improvements by repeating these mantras, affirmations, or rebranding and search engine optimizing my brain to focus on what I believe to be more true, more valuable, and more real than the thing I might presently believe that it looks like my life is falling apart, right? But if I align with that and I allow that to like to sit and become my belief, like I'm super screwed. So now I can look at things and be like, oh, I just lost a really big job. Oh shoot, my best friend died. I'm like, oh, it feels like everything's falling apart, but it's not. It's falling together. I know it. I know it's all going to come together in some beautiful way. And I don't know if it'll be next month or next year. I don't even care. What I do care about is being useful, functional, and optimal in the time between now and that day that I find out it was all working together. I don't want to lose a stride. I don't want to take 10 steps back anymore. So it's not falling apart, it's falling together. So I would say through these brain, giving birth, we can also call it giving birth to the spiritual idea, birthing the spiritual idea, the spiritual idea over and over again, or to become more absorbed in the consideration of spiritual things than of material world things. Although I was
Hmm.
once very much in the world, now I'm trying to be mentally aware and focused on purpose. This is an action I'm choosing to take, and I have to remind myself to be absorbed in the considering of the potential of the spiritual actually being more real than the material, and watching as the experience and the world starts to shift through me slowly but surely changing the way I look at things. Then all of a sudden the things I look at seem to be changing, although they haven't. They're actually the same. I'm just having a new perspective and a new experience with them. And I would say those are probably the two standout pieces.
Yeah, I also like to reinforce what you said. I also found, especially in terms of like materialism, like
Mm-hmm.
past your biological needs, it really just provides sugar highs at best. Sometimes the sugar highs are great, no doubt, but they go away quick. And then you're back to like this, I guess you can say spaciousness, label it as emptiness, and then however you want to frame it from there. And then you're off to like the next thing, you know what I mean? And then it happens again, and then it happens again. And it's like every one of these sugar highs, like really doesn't add anything to your life. Once again, past your biological needs. Sure, you need a place to sleep, and
Mm-hmm.
some people would argue this, but I think in America, you need a car too, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, past that, it's like it doesn't really do anything for you, but your money's gone. So it also
Yeah.
might keep you in a loop of like working maybe more hours than you would like, or working longer in your life than you would like. I would say like, dude, adapt like a minimalist lifestyle and try not to buy anything past your biological needs. You could probably retire like at 40 if you if you really wanted to.
100% right. I mean, if anybody, you know, if you really want freedom, uh, you can eat for free and live for free. I mean, there's housing, there's BLM land. But either one of us could just go buy an axe and walk off into some BLM land and start chopping shit and making ourselves a house. But do we really want to fucking put in all the work to make our own house? That sounds hard. So
Yeah.
it's like it's also a big willingness thing. I don't know about you, but in California here, you can walk down the riverbed and there's about, you know, 5 miles of houses with lemon trees, avocado trees, boysenberry. You can go pick free fruit all day long. There's food banks with free food. Like you actually don't need anything in this day and age, which brings up a whole point maybe we'll touch on later, about this want and this need thing.
Yeah. Also, like tiny homes are pretty cheap, or your houses and stuff like that. So you don't necessarily have to build it yourself. You could also just hire labor to
Oh,
build it for you. And it's not
totally.
too expensive at the grand scheme of things, especially average cost of houses is like 250K in the US. Probably build one for way, way cheaper on your own. But I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you mentioned a few things here. Um, how was your experience with once again trying to achieve happiness through external world pursuits throughout
Yeah.
your life, because you had some cool achievements too, and
Right.
how was your experience with them, and maybe how fleeting they were, or how long lasting they were, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. You know, they say the higher you are, the further you have to fall, right?
Mm.
Um, and I love what Jordan Peterson says about happiness, and how it's really not an optimal goal. Happiness is something that comes and goes. and the objective and the goal should be to be uh, useful and effective in for yourself first and foremost. And if I'm useful and I'm effective in my own life, mentally, physically, spiritually, if I can master that, I could probably be a healthy impact in my family. And if I can be a healthy impact in my family, then I can probably reach out to other community groups. And if I can, have an impact, a healthy impact in my community, I can probably have an impact in my city. And if I can impact my city, I can impact my state. And if I can impact my state, I can impact my country. If I can impact the country, I can impact the world. But it starts with us. Um, and kind of similar to what we talked about earlier, being driven by the dopamine rush or the happy thing. And I just want to be satisfied. And I'm sure if I get this top 10 record, I'm sure if I get on the cover of this magazine cover, I'm sure if I drive this Lamborghini, I'm sure if I date this supermodel, I'm sure if I get another TV show, I'm sure if I collect a bunch of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gold medals, I'll be happy. It's impossible, to not be. And I just really never was there. I'm sure great fleeting moments of, uh, you know, excitement via accolades, and but for me at that time, it was really just all pride, taking pleasure in the esteem that others hold me in, and or uh, you know having a sense of pleasure for who the company that I keep, and ego, this I must be good because I've labeled myself as this character, and this is who I've decided I am. And if I'm able to have this Lambo or this girl or do this or do that, then I must be right. And yay, it's like trying to figure out this whole square peg in a round hole game of, am I the bad voice? Am I the good voice? Am I the right or am I wrong? Am I crazy? Or, which voice do I listen to? And it's like, dude, I'm not the good idea voice and I'm not the bad idea voice. I'm the third party observer. I'm the one that hears the good idea voice and the bad
Hmm.
idea voice. Um, I never knew this kind of stuff before. So I was always playing that game, stuck in duality. And yeah, like you said, I've been really happy, and done crazy stuff, whether it's like Playboy Mansion or throwing the party in Vegas where the fighters are at and the playmates are at, and I'm the guy and I'm hiring the DJ, and it's like, whoo, I'm the man. Feel so happy, and it was a success, and just but never fulfilling, never like this that illusion and that delusion and illusion that somehow after I got that, you're going to be like, oh, like, oh, it's done, I did it, I won. And it's never like that. For me, it never was like that. There was always something missing. It always
Hmm.
was never good enough. And kind of like we talked about earlier, I think that's what it takes. I think, we have to go through this life and realize that what doesn't feel good, what's not really fulfilling, what doesn't seem to be nourishing, lifting me and other people up, what's not allowing me to feel lifted and or to feel um, you know, invested in the uplifting of others, it doesn't mean it might not mean rather that I'm doing it wrong, that I need to do it smarter or harder. It might actually mean that it's not meant for me at all. That
Hmm.
that the quest for happiness might be a fail before you start. It might just be wrong. Um, so happiness comes and goes. I enjoy being happy. I want everybody to be happy, but of course, none of us are always going to be happy. And a lot of the time, the idea of being happy is more pleasurable than the actual event. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's kind of like I felt the same with like desires. It's like whenever you're in a state of desire, there is always lack because you
Yeah.
desire what you lack. But then when you get it, the desire is gone too. So you're still in that state of lack. You know what I mean? It's kind of
Yeah.
like it's almost like a joke at that point once you start seeing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and put my heart and soul into it. Like, let's just say I don't know. A lot of people want to do like competition. They want to do like a fitness show, right? Or something. Like,
Hmm.
and like that idea of how great it's gonna be, like allows them to starve themselves and train like crazy for like 6 months. And it's just an idea of how happy it's going to make them, how fulfilled they're going to feel. And then you get up on that stage and it was 15 minutes and you're like, that was it. And like, wow, the power of your own mind and the visioning of how happy you would be was actually more powerful and or a better source than the actual event was. Like maybe we can tap into that power, you know? If you can imagine how happy you would be with millions and millions of dollars, is that actually a better feeling than getting the millions and millions of dollars? If you can feel as if you already have it, which takes us into really the power of manifestation, right? To feel it and to imagine it and to like literally have a lump in your throat and a stir in your belly sensorially, already feeling like you have it before you have it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I find also with at least achievement in the external world. I think in my theory, it's like, or the theory that I agree with, it's not my theory. It's the central nervous system. Its only purpose is to get you to survive better in the external world. That's it. Just long enough, hopefully, for you to reproduce and kind of spread your gene, basically, from a biological vantage point. And it's like if you contract literally any of your actions in the external world to just enhancing survival. So, like, why do you want to go to college, for example? Oh, I want to go to college so I can get a better job and make more money and be more secure and have more social recognition. It's like, why do you need all that stuff? Oh, just so you can survive better. Even with enlightenment paths, I find it's kind of the same thing. Like, why do you want to get enlightened? Oh, so I could have less friction in my decision making and see things more clearly and be more at peace. And it's like, then people can ask my life advice on what I
Sure.
did. It's like, why
Totally.
do you need all that stuff? Just so you can
Mhm.
survive better. And that's it. And it's like once you start seeing like, oh, the true motivation is just to enhance survival, but there's really no, in my opinion, kind of like fantasy behind it. Like a lot of people
Right.
build fantasies or philosophies around I'm doing this because oh, it's like a super
God
like
told
the
me.
the
Yeah.
planet the planets are aligned and the wavelengths are right or stuff like this. I'm like, well, it's just
Yeah.
like basically like a basic biological process of survival, and there's nothing I mean, you can keep doing it, but just see it for what it is. You know what I mean? You don't need to build like a huge fantasy around it. And it sounds kind of dry and a little bit depressing, but I kind of tend to side more with that because sometimes when people build like too many fantasies around, I feel beliefs and ideas, they can
Yeah.
go in the wrong path
Oh
for
yeah.
forever because they're like, oh, it's destined to be this way. And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
like, no, dude,
Yeah.
it's just a basic biological process, and you can just switch it this way and still have that biological needs met, you know?
Right. Right. No, you just become like really delusional, manipulative, and dead set on controlling some type of outcome in specific when that's not really how life works. But I think you're right. I've always aligned with that belief system. That the human nervous system. It's also why we're still here. We'd all be dead if we didn't have this nervous system that's built for survival and only survival. Um, and it is very primitive in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like eat, fuck,
Shit.
shit.
And
Yeah,
then
eat.
find a better place to do it in. You know, that's it. That could be human
Exactly.
nature summarized in one quick line.
It's so true.
Yeah.
But I do believe that we have this other parts of our brain, but the part where people mess up, or the part where it goes awry, I guess, is many of us on this quest to be kind of enlightened, which is like God, like help me think better, bigger than a monkey. Like if I could just be a little more open to growing than a monkey. That would be cool, because that's the only thing that separates us. Is we have just a little bit more brain to think outside of that and to allow some kind of, I don't know, I call it spiritual mathematics to come in. It's like there's some digits out there that I don't know about in the quantum universe that are pretty cool. And I think I have a relationship with it instead of just a relationship with poop and food and fucking, there might be like something out there responding energetically and kind of reacting with me that I want to be a part of rather than, you know, um, just what we talked about before. But most people will go from being enlightened to trying to be enlightened to becoming elitist, and then start telling everybody what's wrong and what's right and how that this is the way, which I definitely don't think there's only one path.
Yeah, and also like to touch on um, what you mentioned before in terms of like external achievements, I find like um, this I got from Stefan Walensky as well, is like a lot of achievements. The more you strive to achieve externally, I find it always comes from like a bigger lack, some type of
Mm,
perception, Like if you're truly satisfied with your current situation, there's no need to do anything else. You know what I mean?
right? That makes so
And
much sense.
and I
Wow.
think once again, it goes back to the central nervous system wanting you to survive better, because the more you accumulate, the more you do, the more likely you are, at least, even if it's at the expense of your mental health or spiritual health, at least from a physical perspective, the more likely you are to survive and then reproduce again. You know what I mean?
Right,
Versus
right.
living as like some simple monk without even a salary and relying on like a bowl of rice donated from your local village every day to keep living that kind of lifestyle.
Right, right. Versus, if you're a caveman and you're dead sure a really big storm is coming, then you're dead sure you have to find the best place to live in, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but you only have to find the strongest place to live in because you're dead sure a storm's coming. So if you're dead sure you have to be a millionaire, you're dead sure you have to be famous, or you're dead sure you have to succeed, then it speaks to a dead sureness inside of you that's the lack that you're talking about, right? The insecurity you're trying to overcome.
Yeah, and I feel the more you strive to overcome that, again, the more you reinforce that false idea of you is right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The more you try not to be a loser, the more you reconfirm that you actually do think you're a loser. You know,
Right. Yes, exactly.
for
Exactly.
example,
And
as one simple example.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. I'm curious, have you ever been confused by the labels in the grocery store? In Yevgeny's book, he demystifies the difference between caged, cage-free, free-range, and pasture-raised meats. He also covers how to avoid GMOs, source high-quality water, fish, supplements, and other related topics. It's a beautifully illustrated, non-technical read that comes with a comprehensive video series and other extended learning materials. Jump on Amazon and check out the book titled Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide by Eugene Trufkin. Now let's dive back into the podcast.
for me,
No, just
oh,
I mentioned that kind of like as a simple example, like the loser part, but it could be like
yeah,
some people don't think they can achieve, so they overachieve. But the more you
right.
achieve, the more you reinforce that you really don't think you can achieve. You know what
Yes,
I mean? Because that
yes,
false idea is always going to be stronger than the false solution to that
right.
idea.
Yeah. And this kind of goes back to this thing that I was talking about, retraining the brain, um, basically most people are taught, to build from a place of fear, to overcome their
Mm-hmm.
problems by focusing on the problem. And you're exactly right. If I'm afraid of being broke and I set out to make a bunch of money and prove to the world I'm a success, either I'll be a failure and be like, you know what? See, I knew it. I'm a failure. Or I'm going to do really good. And when I have that money and success, I'll have the money and success with the still existing fear of being a loser,
Mm-hmm.
of being broke. Now I have money and I'm just scared that the IRS is going to take it all. Now I
Mm-hmm.
have money and I'm just scared my business partners are going to screw me. Now I have a bunch of money and I'm just scared to lose that amount of money. I was less
Mm-hmm.
afraid of being a loser when I had a little bit of money. Now I have a lot of money and I'm really scared to be a loser.
Mm-hmm.
So we retrain the brain, right? Um, So I'll give you a good example of how I help people utilize this golden key or this new mental mantra, the spiritual, give birth to the spiritual idea. Um, you know, many people across our world believe that they don't have enough energy. And they say things to themselves like, I wish I had more energy. Or, you know what, I would have, but I don't have the energy today. And, and, you know, this idea leads to, far less workouts accumulated over the course of a year of their lifetime. This idea has them going and buying cheap ready meals that suck or crap protein bars or spending a lot of money on sugary energy drinks to get more energy drinks. It leads them to take Adderall or maybe get on some sleeping medication to sleep better so they can get more energy and, not going out socially or going to the right events to meet people, show up shiny faced, excited, shaking hands and kissing babies. You know why? Because, well, they just don't have enough energy. And, we talked about discipline, progression, right? Small wins in the beginning of this. And those are the things that add up. And when you miss so many little things over the course of a year or your lifetime, by something as small as believing that if you had more energy, you'd get up and go and do it. So
Mm.
people suffer, and relationships suffer, careers suffer, financial suffer, health, fitness suffer. There, none of them are done to the optimal way, and it's because of a belief system. But you and I both know that every human body has 35 to 37 trillion cells in it, and you and I both know that every human cell has 70 millivolts of electricity, and 70 millivolts times 35 to 37 trillion cells is like 2.63 trillion volts of electricity in each and every human body, which means every human body is energy. It could never be low in energy. Sleep doesn't change your energy or your cells. Energy drinks don't change that. Medication doesn't change that. So for people who feel tired all the time and feel low in energy, I just tell them, hey, I want you to say this to yourself every day, 1,000 times in the day if it takes. Brush your teeth with your left hand, open up certain parts of your brain, do something funky, and then start repeating this mantra. I am an energetic powerhouse. 2.63 trillion volts of electricity is in my body now. I could never be low in energy. I am energy, which is true, medically documented, scientifically backed, researched, true. The Bible says, "Oh, the truth will set you free," right? Well, what if they're just talking about something as simple as this? I don't know. The truth shall set you free means you believe in Jesus, or just the truth shall set you free means, hey, stop lying to yourself.
Mm.
You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mhm.
And the Bible also says, beware the false witness, for it comes dressed as a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I don't know about you, but when I heard that for most of my life, I was picturing like some gypsy lady jumping out of the bushes with a crystal ball telling me, you're going to die when you're 26, or, you have a demon in you. That's what I thought. And no gypsy lady ever jumped out of the bushes. I didn't have any weirdo witches, coming to me and telling me they knew my future. But I'll
That's
tell you what,
unfortunate because that
I,
sounds really cool if it didn't
right?
happen.
Right? I would have been too scared because the Bible said to be scared. But the Bible doesn't say to be scared. The
I would
Bible
ask him out
says,
on a date.
dude, they're
I'm like,
freaks.
that's girlfriend material. That's a
That's
keeper.
I think I have dated a couple of them.
Yeah.
But what if, right? Like, I'm not trying to pitch religion, but I like to read. I mean, I read Taoism and Buddhism, and I read all kinds of stuff. But what if beware the false witness or the false prophet? It says false prophet, for it comes dressed as a wolf in sheep's clothing. What if it's telling you, hey, beware of the thoughts of your limited primal mind that's built for only survival, because it talks to you in your own voice, and it tells you you're old, and it tells you you're tired, and it tells you you're not smart enough, and it tells you you need a degree, and it tells you that they won't like you can't go there, and it tells you you might fail. So you stay in the safety of the primitive nervous system mind, and you just keep living like a monkey. But To be transformed by the renewing of your mind means, hey, dude, what are you talking about? I am energy. 2.63 trillion volts. I have more energy in me than the sun produces. Whoa. And remind yourself of that. And then you push the old idea of being low in energy way back on the Google search. And the next time somebody invites you out to a business dinner, or somebody invites you out to an opportunity, or you lose a job and you need to submit 20 job applications and you don't feel like you have the energy, you're like, wait a minute, I am energy. I'm going to bust these out and then I'll take a nap. It doesn't mean that you walk on water, but it means that you're not limited by that primal mind. You don't have to be stuck in the old circuitry, that you can retrain your brain like software to implement the nervous system like hardware, upload that, and then start to be led by these new belief systems that you have encoded in yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I also find, I don't know, everyone struggled with this, I'm sure, but I'm curious, and you kind of hinted at the solution here, but kind of the reframing traps, because I think positive psychology can be a trap sometimes
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
like people, like a common one is like, oh, I don't like my work, but they kind of reframe it in a positive way to keep them there. Like, oh, I don't like it, but I like this pay, or I could retire in like 7 years, or XYZ, whatever. There are a million ways to reframe a situation, but deep down they know like that path isn't right for them. And I'm always a believer in like, if you get into their like wrong careers or relationships and they're wrong deep down inside for you personally, like you'll always sabotage yourself to avoid that continued pain of staying in that path. So your
Totally.
growth will be capped at a certain point, because if you grow more, you're only growing in the wrong direction.
Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Um, you know, the human nervous system always chooses a familiar hell over an
Yeah.
unfamiliar heaven, right? We get really comfortable. This nervous system that we're talking about is literally hardwired for familiarity. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at, people in abusive relationships, or, if you look at drug addicts, or, you look at gamblers, or like so many of these people are struggling bad, but it's like, it's just what they know. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like no amount of pain is great enough to take them out of the comfort of what they know, and you become familiar with that
Mm-hmm.
thing, and it's just like great suffering. It's like, why don't you just get your shit together? It's like, you don't understand, dude. They've been brainwashed, hardwired. They're stuck on stupid, literally, like their nervous system is stuck on, they can't leave this thing because it's their routine. It's so hard
Mm-hmm.
to break a bad habit, you
Yeah.
know? So, on the positive reframing thing, yeah, people call this like a spiritual bypass, or, like, um, it's like, it's different than like going in the mirror and being like, you're beautiful. You got this, buddy. You know, what if I'm ugly? You know what I mean? Like, can I, like, well, what if I tell myself I'm beautiful every day and then acid gets thrown on my face? Like, and now everything's ruined. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
not about being beautiful. And what if I don't got, if I just tell myself I got this every day and then I lose, it's like, I, oh, it doesn't work, But it goes beyond that. It goes beyond, like, nothing is happening to me. Everything is happening through me. Like, I must find myself beautiful regardless of how I look, how old I am. Like, everything is beautiful. Matter of fact, everything is beautiful because everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. There's nothing out of place in this universe. You know, I can't improve upon the way the tide comes in or goes out. I can't improve upon the mechanics of a hummingbird. I can't even explain it to you. I can't tell you about quantum physics to a T. I can't tell you why the sun comes up every day and gives me vitamin D, and the moon comes out every day and gives me melatonin. Like, I can't tell you how the atmosphere. I can't. I don't know why trees exhale what I inhale and inhale what I exhale. But what I can tell you is it seems like it's all working fucking perfect. And
Hmm.
like, I don't need to improve on that. I don't need to improve on anything other than my mindset. And I need to become part of that grand symphony. I need to know that just like a butterfly or a hummingbird is intrinsically built perfect and awesome, so is everything else. And so am I. And, you know, that's we're trying to go from like this material realm socially acceptable to like kind of a divine mind thing where like I try not to think with this primal mind. I try not to see things with this limited mind, and I try to go into the beyond, into the infinite, into the everything is interconnected. Nothing is by mistake. Everything is built perfectly, and so am I, whether I'm young, old, pretty, ugly. Some people are going to find me ugly. Some people are going to find me pretty. It's like none of that shit really matters. It's not about anything that's going on outside me. It's all about everything that's going on inside me and the belief systems that I've become accustomed through constant conscious contact. And you're right. You can set yourself up for failure if you're just doing like a cheerleader parrot mantra, without feeling and without real conviction, you know.
Hmm.
And this is kind of I help people with this a lot to find their own specific mantras, their own specific brand, right? Because, you know, your way, right away, Burger King, Nike, just do it, three stripes, Adidas, everybody needs to find one that fits them. And when you find it, you kind of get a little feeling. You kind of get a little feeling, but it is very much an interpersonal journey. Um, and I'll tell you, the very first one I used, I got it tattooed on my arm. It's just this statement. It says, "Embrace the mystery." Embrace
Mm.
the mystery. And I read it and it popped out at me. And I was like, yo, that sounds cool. I was like, I want to do that. Like, and then I had it really comes back to meditation, right? Everybody meditates. We're all always meditating. Meditation is just familiarizing yourself with your thoughts. It's like all it is, like to become more aware of your thoughts. That's what it means to know yourself better. So, in my little just meanderings driving the car, I was like, you know what? I am the type of guy who I do pride myself on like deductive thought process. Like I'm pretty
Hmm.
good at, seeing the pieces out on the table and kind of knowing what it would come together to be, and yeah, I know a little bit about a lot, and I do jump to conclusions right as I may be. I'm usually pretty close, but that doesn't seem to be getting me very further in life. I'm at a stalling point where I think I know enough about enough to stop being curious and to stop exploring.
Hmm.
And there doesn't seem to be much mystery for me. If I go this way, I'll get X. If I go that way, I'll get X. If I treat them like this, I'll get this. If I treat, so I'm constantly doing a kind of a puppeteer act, which is the nervous system, to keep
Hmm.
everything the way it is because I'm comfortable with it. But so I wanted to undo that. I wanted to undo that unconscious attachment to comfort and familiarity. So I said, embrace the mystery, embrace the mystery. If a check was late in the mail, instead of calling the people and complaining, embrace the mystery. If I lost a job, embrace the mystery. If someone was acting weird or if whatever's going on, I said, embrace the mystery. Just allow this to be something that you cannot make your mind up about, and not be sure it's going to go one way versus another. And things started going ways in which they hadn't gone before. And the ways in which they started going were ended up being better than the things that I could have come up with in my mind. The blueprints that I had were based on what I knew before, and I was keeping myself there. And the new detail that came through, the new projects, blueprints, information, knowledge, jobs, relationships, whatever you want to say. The new stuff was like, whoa, that's weird. And that's when I started using that. The more I let go, the more I have. I was like, okay, so if I'm letting go of old ideas and new opportunities are presenting themselves by embracing the mystery, then it would only go to say that the more I let go, the more I have. Because I like new, I like different. We forget that we like new. We think we want to be comfortable, but we don't. And I think this is why a lot of people create calamity in their life with these massive diet shifts, binging, with these toxic relationships, with drinking or partying. It's like we need some level of chaos, even though we think we want none. We think we just want to be happy. We want to do a job well done and just chill for a couple days, but we actually don't. We actually like continuous work. We like problem solving. We like being engaged. We like kind of having a heavy load. And most people, because they're working so hard through that unconscious nervous system, hardwired for familiarity, to have everything be comfortable, that we impend our own doom in various ways through getting depressed or anxiety or stress, picking a partner that's probably not good for you. So you have something to argue about, freak out about, and complain about. Um, and that was a big shift in my life when I started letting go and I started embracing the mystery and reminding myself all throughout the day, every day, to do that. Then I just became a person who now naturally enjoys doing that, who prefers doing that, and who believes letting go is the way to receive, and the mystery is the way to experience new life on a new level. And I've stopped plotting, planning, and brainstorming, and being married to any one idea. It's just freaking changed. It's changed the nervous system. It's upregulated my perspective on uh, what I actually prefer, what I actually enjoy.
How's your choice in intimate partners changed since
Oh,
all of this work? I'm just kind of
dude.
curious. Let's say like to rewind like 20 years ago
Yeah,
versus now,
dude.
Or 15
It's,
years ago, maybe 20 is too far
it's
back.
such a great question, dude. I mean, I was married to a stripper, former porn star, big old fake boobs, extensions, blonde hair. I always had some model esque or stripper esque girlfriend, and I was always sorry. I got a call.
No, it's okay.
I was always going after like these genetically gifted types, like broad shoulders and big feet and big teeth, big lips. I thought, if I'm going to procreate with somebody, I want like strong genes. Like I want a girl that looks like maybe used to, be in the WWE or something. Um, and dude, my girlfriend is like 5'2". She doesn't shave her legs or armpits. She walks around barefoot all day, wears zero makeup. She's like my little, like, it's like um, just like two Tarzans, It's like I used to try to go after Jane, and now I'm just like, dude, I want somebody to just pick bugs out of each other's hair with, and chill and fart and drink raw milk with, and it's a trip, totally changed, and like authentically, organically, way more intrigued by that, way more enticed by that. And the other thing, the superficial thing, is just like, ooh, do I really want to be sitting on the couch for 2 hours while you're doing your hair and makeup to go out to like a dinner? Like, it's been such a blessing, kind of like letting go of the Nikes, like, and now, but it's just so much easier.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting, dude. It has affected every area of my life.
Yeah, just personally on a side note, I just find those kind of let's go out for dinner and get ready for like 3 hours. It's like instant red flag, and it's like so boring. I can't do that. I never really got into it, but now it's like just like a hard stop. Like whenever I run into that, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's not for me. It's just for me, it's like so boring and just like meaningless. And consumerism 101.
Yeah, it speaks to something definitely deeper that really, it's like 2 hours every week to do those nails. Like either you're doing so much and you're so highly effective that you have 2 hours to spare, or like your perspective, or like your your objectives are like way off. Because if you got 2 hours to do that and you're not doing other stuff, wow.
You must really be a nail fanatic at that point. It must be a real deep core value for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was just wondering on a side note, you kind of hinted at the observer a little, like maybe
Yeah.
30 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
I found it to help me a lot as well, but I just wanted to get your perspective on um like free will. Like I find even with something as simple as thoughts, you got like a thought that pops up, you notice it consciously only after the fact, never
Uh,
before. And then it kind of disappears. You got a little bit of space, and then another thought pops up, and then you notice it after the fact, and you may or may not take action on it, quote unquote, you. But I was just wondering, or even something as simple as like flexing your hand. There are so many like billions of neurotransmitters that have to fire a signal down into your muscle tissue that then moves the skeleton aspect of your hand, and then you only notice it after it's moved, never
mm,
before. I just, whenever I bring this up with people, they just kind of like dismiss the conversation. But I'm like, dude, like, do you not notice that? Like, come on. Like, what free will do you have then, just on those two simple examples?
that's a really deep question. That's super interesting. And, you know, not to, try to make it too simple, but, you know, I would say that everything that exists, like in the material realm, was once a thought. Like nothing happens without a thought first. Like a
Mm-hmm.
TV was an
Mm-hmm.
idea, and the table, all the stuff we have. But you do this, and you're like, in your head before, it's almost like you see your hand doing that, even though you don't see it outside you before you do it. You see it inside you. You know it's going to happen, right?
But I think you only see that thought of you flexing that hand only after it's already arisen. And then it kind of sends the signal, down your spinal column, XYZ nerve root, and then it kind of goes into your hand and you flex the hand.
But before you flex your hand, you're going to flex your hand.
Well, let's say, like, for example, the thought, I'm going to flex my hand pops up. You only
Uh-huh.
notice it after the fact. You only notice that thought after the fact. And then the signal is sent, and then the hand flexes, and you again notice that after the fact.
Uh,
It's
well,
okay. Like if I usually bring this up with people, and they're like, "How's this going to help me pay my bills?" And I'm like, "Okay, then this conversation is with the wrong person."
well, I think it goes, for me, I would say that, like I said, nothing really exists without a thought. If I go get up and get a drink of water, I have a thought I'm thirsty, and the thought might be kind of unconscious, but I still, you know, almost teleport to going to get the water. Like how did I get here? Well, you believed you wanted to. You believed you needed a drink, and you know some stuff. Somebody throws a baseball at your face, and you might grab it. You didn't really think about it. That's kind of unconscious, reaction. But I believe that most actions, like I want to grab this phone, and I kind of do, even though it's in a flash, I kind of do see and know that my hand, and trust that my hand will reach out and I can grab this before I actually grab it, which I believe is the secret to life, like the belief and the knowing in the mind. That which I trust to believe and see is what will happen. And we can take it from I know my hand's gonna flex. I know I can, and there's a bunch of things that work in you know, work together to make that happen. Billions of crazy interactions and neurons and things firing to make that happen. And I believe that the material realm, the whirling atoms and protons and more empty space than there is,
Hmm.
that's all reactive to the belief and the thought. And so, that's why I'm trying to take the thoughts. I think, therefore I am. As a man thinketh, so shall he become. Carl Jung has a great quote that says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, you will continue to suffer, and you will believe it to be fate." And I think that speaks perfectly to this whole kind of primal, primitive, built hardwired for just survival. And people wonder why they aren't thriving when they can. People wonder why they're not achieving greatness when they absolutely can. And it's just because the programming is kind of stuck on some old shit, and you can't change your nervous system out, but you can re-indoctrinate it. You can
Hmm.
reprogram it, through the data, which is the mind. But self-will, um, you know, self-will, I don't know.
Controversial topic.
It is.
I get mixed um I guess I can say like mixed opinions depending on who I ask. Some people say no, but then some
I
people
think,
say yes, like this, like the thought arises from some atmosphere energy. And although you do observe it after the fact and it's not your thought, it's kind of like a signal from a higher power that you're part of
mm,
if you don't believe in um
yeah,
if you don't believe in uh uh duality, if you're
sure.
non-duality, then it's like it is still a part of you. And thus, I get like all sorts of different, because it is kind of a little depressing sometimes to think like, well, yeah, I mean, you're right, I do see the thought after the fact, I only notice it after the fact, so I have no power over it, so what's the point of doing anything? I'm just kind
Even
of this
bother.
passive observer, basically kind of like sitting in a movie theater and you're watching the movie.
Yeah,
I don't know very many people that are like thinking they are the movie. You definitely know
yeah.
you're in the seat watching it, although you may enjoy it. You're not like the freaking movie, hopefully.
I like to believe that I'm not in the theater watching the movie, and that I'm also not in the movie. I am actually the projector up in the box projecting the
Mm,
movie. I'm not receiving it. I'm projecting it. I'm not the receptor, I'm the projector.
right.
Because, whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right, right?
Yeah, it's all speculation, right?
It's all speculation, right? So, if it can be hot outside and I can be super bummed because, I wore a thermal today and I'm going to be sweating my ass off and I'm mad. But you can be super happy because, you just love being in the sunshine and you love it being hot. So is it hot is hot wrong or right? Well, it's wrong to me and it's right to you, right? So
Hmm.
I am, my mind is my software. My uh, you know nervous system is the hardware, and the program is what I'm projecting. I've decided that the sun is wrong, and you've decided the sun is right, but the sun's not right or wrong. The sun is subject to perspective. And you might be scared of dogs, and I'm happy. The dog makes me happy, and the dog makes you scared. Which one of us is right? The dog's not bad or good. The dog's just a dog, and we have two chosen different perspectives of the dog. The dog's just a dog. So I'm projecting onto that dog that it's bad or good, or this tree. I went for a walk with my sister the other day, and she's really into horticulture, and
Mm.
we were looking at these trees, and I was like, man, these are pretty trees. I literally just think it in my head, and she's like, these freaking stupid ass freaking landscapers. Do you see this? That's like a scar. That's never gonna. They cut these trees that they're not cutting it right. It's not gonna sprig a new one. And by the way, they're so stupid for planting all these eucalyptus trees, because eucalyptus trees are not water sparing. They just suck up all the water and last a really long time. And she's like furious with like, Orange County Parks and Recreations. And I'm like having a good time. I was like, wow, dude, such different experiences. Like, and she's kind of right and I'm kind of right. She's kind of wrong and I'm kind of wrong. And they're just trees, dude. And I was projecting a totally different movie than the movie she was projecting, but we were in the same moment looking at the same tree. So self-will means I have the will to be present to whatever presence I want. It could be a horror movie for me, and it can be a freaking fantasy story for me, and it can be a sci-fi. It can be whatever I want because I have the will to do that. I'm like literally self-governing. I'm literally totally autonomous in my ability to project whatever I want from the inside of me to the outside of me. It's a trip.
Yeah, to reinforce your idea, it's kind of like emptiness. Depressed people spend their entire life running away from it, but Buddhists spend their entire life training themselves to be in it.
Right.
So it's kind of like it's all about, I guess, like you hinted at atoms being 99% empty, 99.999% empty space or whatever, and everything is made up of atoms. So it's all really just spaciousness labeled as, in that case, like emptiness, and then built depending on the person, how they frame that spaciousness, which has no meaning, is going to dictate their experience of the external world.
Yeah, and then but we all knock on the table that's 99.99% empty space. So my question to you is, if I could untrain my brain to believe that this is hard wood and to be totally sold out that this is 99.99% empty space, could I I'd have to brainwash myself. I'd have to SEO the fuck out of it. I'd have to unlearn so much. I'm indoctrinated and I don't even know it. I'd have to unlearn so much, but could I unlearn enough of what I think I know to put my hand through this table? Because I believe that it's empty space, which it actually is. It actually is. Why can't I put my hand through it? Well, because I'm still holding on to some old ideas about space and time. So, like, we're talking about doing some crazy shit, man. And I believe it would be possible. I really do believe it would be possible to walk through a wall if we truly believed the truth. If we truly believe the provable truth that it's more empty space than it is matter. Oof.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to like any of Dr. Donald Hoffman's work on interface theory? Does that sound familiar at all? If not, it's okay.
No, but I'm gonna make a note of that right now.
Yeah, he's actually a former professor of mine from the University of California, Irvine, and he's the one that actually started my journey into studying human consciousness. He just became like recently super popular. He was like on well, he's been popular for a long time, but I mean super popular on way bigger podcasts. He was like on Lex Friedman's podcast, and he got like a couple of million views, and he was like on a couple of other bigger podcasts. But it is pretty interesting. He kind of talks about like the central nervous system, its limited capacity to see reality for what it is. So basically, like the more you dumb down reality and not see it for what it is, the more likely you are to survive, right? And that's kind of how it's gone through centuries and centuries and centuries of evolution. So he mentions the example of like the word icon on the desktop. It's like a blue W. And that's kind of the user-friendly version. But if you look at the code, it's just like a bunch of numbers and letters, and only like an advanced programmer can understand like what's going on. But if you made the user try to use Word through the code, it's like impossible. You can't do the work. So basically, through various degrees of abstraction, the human mind has dumbed down literally everything to its absolute simplest and non-representative version of whatever you're looking at. And so going back to the idea of do I even see reality for what it is? Of course you don't,
Right.
And if you did, the brain would probably like be overloaded and explode and not have the energy to sleep, shit, and find better places to do it in,
Fuck, eat, shit, and find better places to do it in. I love that.
I mean,
is that original?
No, I definitely got it from someone. I just forget
good.
exactly where I got it from. But if you look at all behavior, it really comes down to like those three activities. And then if you throw consumerism into it, finding like a better place to do it, like a better house, better community, better car. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, totally.
It's like, and then that's why I went through like people building fantasies around just very simple biological processes. I'm like, dude, there's nothing absolutely fancy about any of this. It's just a simple need to survive in a biological process. There's no need to build a fantasy story around it or philosophy. Just see it for what it is. So if it's no longer serving you, just pivot, man. Like,
Yeah.
stop freaking holding on to that desperate story, you know, of like, oh, it's because Jupiter is aligned with 5 moons and I'm destined to do. I'm like, no, man.
I
Jupiter
know.
is not freaking aligned with anything, and you're just being retarded at this point.
Well, people, they just use the story to legitimize their past. So there has to be a story to legitimize their future, right? Because they've just been in a story for so long, right?
Yeah.
We got to write our way out of that story.
Well, where do you see yourself, let's say, in even the next 5 years?
Yeah, so every night before I go to bed, I've been reading my manifesto that ends on my 26th birthday, 46, sorry, my 46th birthday, which gives me a little more than a year and a half. But I am phasing out. I built a pretty successful little business here in Orange County over the last 3 years, facilitating workshops, lectures, meditations, sound baths. We talk about neuroscience and addiction, and warrior gene, chakra tuning, sound therapy, health and wellness, nature walks, mindfulness walks, various therapeutic groups in mental health facilities and drug and alcohol detoxes. And I'm really proud to say that Energy, which our website's energy.world, INNER capital G dot world, energy like the hat, has over 60 groups a week right now. So
Hmm.
60 different groups where we're in front of 5 to 20 people, all struggling with mental health and addiction, people that are pretty much at the end of their rope. And it's been a beautiful way to be of service to humanity and try to encourage other people to keep fighting. It's also been a beautiful opportunity to provide income for a lot of my friends and people that I've trained, who also come from their own struggles and with addiction and mental health. And seeing those people succeed and help other people has been beautiful. So it's done well enough that I believe going to a virtual platform, providing certifications, helping other people across the world or at least nation learn how to become their own energy facilitators in our proprietary approach to resetting the mind, retraining the nervous system, breaking through old belief systems through breath work, proper intention, goal setting, yada yada, and focusing more on that online certification course, maybe some retreats. Of course, I got my Balanced Man retreat every 3 months in Costa Rica, which I'd love to have you at, man. It'd be great. I'll give you my cost on the retreat if you ever want to come. But so in my manifesto, I'm basically speaking to, being obviously the best version of myself and having online success, providing some residual income, and the walking away from the group and allowing my team to really run the group to provide income for them and myself. Hopefully owning property, Austin, Texas, Bali, Mexico, Costa Rica. I'm not really sure where, but I want to have a nice chunk of property somewhere. And I want to really get more enmeshed in some international travel, finding cutting edge breakthroughs in the medical field. I got that gene therapy shot, the follistatin gene therapy with Dr. Khan. That was fantastic. And there's so many things out there that can help other people. And I want to bring those modalities into, health and wellness, especially with people struggling with PTSD, anxiety, depression, addiction. And so I got some new friends out in Cabo doing incredible things with stem cells. with a fully enclosed vacuum system, with a bio accelerator producing like 98% efficacy, like the highest grade of stem cells. I'm really excited about that. We're going to go out there in June. So partnering with these people that are really pioneering industries in health and wellness through medical breakthroughs, and continuing to share the spiritual uh, leg of the tripod, because I feel like being at the heights of looking great and being successful and looking great, but really not having the spiritual foundation to keep from toppling over. Continuing to share that, growing my retreat in Costa Rica, and just stepping more and more into being open to everything, attached to nothing. Really being uh, through not needing anything, kind of staying full, you know.
Hmm.
uh no desires, man, just opportunities, and let the universe call, suit up and show up, and know that I have something to share, and that the people that want it will present themselves, and it'll be more divinely appointed, or you know uh like attracts like. So become that oscillation energetically within me, so that it pulls me towards the right people, and uh continue to do good things, man. Because for me, helping people, being of benefit to my fellows, it always has made me feel more enriched than anything else. So I just want to keep doing that.
Yeah. No, those sound like great plans, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll be your neighbor in Texas pretty soon. Who knows?
Okay. Well, give me a call, man. I'm always down to hang out. So,
That'd be great.
okay. Well, Jeremy, thanks again. Thanks again. It's good to see you, and thanks again for taking time out of your day to even do this podcast together. Are there any other topics you'd like to touch on? I'm happy to go wherever. I think we touched
I
on a
mean,
couple of good things.
yeah, no, I had a lot of fun, man. Just again, the Balanced Man Retreat. It's thebalancedman.life. Check out our website, thebalancedman.life. People can find me on Instagram at Jeremy Jackson Fitness. And of course, I already mentioned the energy.world. So, if you got any men who want to come on a epic adventure in Costa Rica, shooting bows, water rafting, waterfall hikes, jujitsu, Krav Maga, daily stretch, meditations, stillness, breath work, journaling groups, death ceremonies, plant medicine ceremonies. I mean, we go pretty deep. It's really rad, and it's something I'm super proud of, and I can't wait to have you out there. And maybe I do want to hook you up with my buddy Danny Goler. Have you seen um, what everybody's talking about right now? With this guy has proven he can expose the code of reality with this laser pen, and you smoke DMT and you can see the,
Hmm.
the have you seen that yet?
No, but sounds cool.
Joe Rogan was talking about it recently, and so
Hmm.
it's totally gone viral. But anyway, this is my buddy. He won't say he's a physicist, but he's basically a physicist, and he's got universities researching his stuff right now. They got some white papers on it, but essentially he can get a bunch of people in a room and they can hit this DMT pin. He turns on this laser, shines it at the wall, and everybody can observe the same code on the wall through the laser,
Hmm.
like simultaneous viewing of the same stream of code,
By code, what do you mean by code?
like symbols,
Oh, symbols. Got it.
like
Okay.
like numbers and symbols, and even words that stand out sometimes. But
I see.
we're seeing the same thing
Got it.
at the same time. It's
Got it.
pretty trippy, dude. If you want to talk to somebody fun, and his shit's super viral right now.
Got it. Okay, yeah, and I'll include all those links you mentioned too in the side notes so people can just kind of click on those really quick.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, but thanks, Jeremy. It's good to see you, man, and good to stay in touch all these years as well. So,
Likewise, man. Honored to spend time with an old friend, and I respect who you are and what you do, and I'm honored to be staying in touch.
yeah. Okay, thank you, everyone, and have a good weekend.
Later.
Let's see here.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you've ever had trouble losing weight, or you've lost weight, but still didn't have the ideal body or health you're aiming for, please feel free to reach out anytime and book an assessment. Eugene will work with you to cover your goals in detail, see what's holding you back, and go from there. In the meantime, feel free to check out the countless testimonials on Eugene's website in the link below. In the testimonial section, you'll notice everyone has various backgrounds, are of all different ages, and all have had different challenges in their life, but they all have one thing in common: they were all able to find their health and achieve their ideal body. You're also welcome to add yourself to the Facebook group in the link below. There you'll have access to the live videos that Eugene does weekly on Sundays, and other helpful content. Thank you again for tuning in.